Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now these guys are taking the profits and reinvesting it into the city, into kids in the city, helping them to learn the ways of business, for example,
Yes.
Yes.
and meet executives and learn how to talk in an interview and stuff. So things that are going to change lives one by one are happening at Scranton Road Promotional Ministries.
Look at you. McDonald's is going to call me like, can you do our commercial?
Right.
We love
I'm
Scranton
loving it.
Road. Yes, and what they do for the kids. Want to say what's up to Mike, and Lori says good morning. Gary, what's up? Gary, you're happy to see us? You're all about Brian.
I know.
Martha says happy Friday. Sheila, what's up? We see you there quietly. Hi to those on YouTube. Make sure to say hello. So Brian's studio from home in his bedroom has a new name. Kelly?
Isolation
that?
Station.
Isolation Station.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh yeah, that was
Appreciate it.
super awesome. And so Dave is getting his prizes. That was super fun.
Mhm.
Hi
Wow.
Sue. And so today, this week we talked about emotional intelligence and what that means, and is it optional really? Like, is it something that you could
Yes.
say, oh, that's my personality, it's not my personality?
Mhm.
And Ron, you came in in the conversation saying that you have low IQ. That was so EQ,
Yeah,
not
and
IQ,
but-
not IQ. No. And I'm trying to get the exact definition, but
Yeah, I found after our talk that maybe my EQ isn't so low. I just don't have much emotions. So
that makes more
but
I'm
you do,
aware
your
of them a little bit.
interpersonal skills are high in EQ.
They're okay.
Yeah.
They're not as high as yours where like, hi stranger, and 2 minutes later, you know,
Yeah,
you know
yeah, yeah.
everything about them,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
deepest, darkest secret.
But for what usually is expected from a man, you have higher than what's usually shown in other people,
Yeah, I
right?
think
Yeah.
I think in some ways I don't want to toot my own horn,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I
No,
think
I
he
think
does.
especially if someone comes to you,
Mhm.
like you're so patient in listening and
Yeah.
just I
And very
there's a-
sensitive to other
yeah.
people's needs. And we made sure during the conversation not to make it a man-woman thing. Brian
Yes.
mentioned
Right.
there's women he knows, women I know that have low EQ. You were going to
Yeah.
say something, Ron?
One example was Gary Chapman's 5 love languages.
Yeah.
You know, I sat down with that test one time, and it's like, well, just read through, and one will pop out to you. So I read 1, nah, 2, nah, 3. I get to 5, I'm like, nothing popped. Let me lower the bar a little bit and
Yeah.
try again.
Oh, my
Something move the
goodness.
needle.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just am low emotion
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So emotional intelligence, the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotion, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. You were going to say
Yeah.
something?
Oh,
Kelly?
Mike gave a definition too on Facebook. Your EQ is the level of your ability to understand other people, what motivates them, and how to work in like cooperation with them, like working together.
Thank you, Mike. And so I shared during that conversation I have high EQ, but I've never, I think that's like a new term that's, you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't a thing. It's just who I am. And I'm very passionate about my children having high EQ, my boys in particular. But what I've called it before was tender hearts,
Right.
you know, and so I
Yeah.
always talk to them about a woman's perspective or the impact of the things they say. For example, you know, they'll throw out jokes all the time. One word that's become a bad word in my family, like it's not good, because Raina's 9 now. And so her older brother, the 10-year-old, would say things like, "You're so fat." Like if she's eating a lot. Raina's not even close, but I've talked to them. Listen, this is how girls receive this, all of that.
Yeah.
And the importance of tender hearts from men in marriage. But one of the things I was wondering about before I move into what I struggle with, which Brian loves to hear, is based on your experience, is EQ something you just get to say, well, that's not my personality, I just don't have it? Is that a personality thing, or do you think it's something we should all pursue and grow in?
It could be something you just say you don't have and you don't pursue. Kind of like you could say, well, I'm just not healthy, and eat whatever you want and have your cholesterol go crazy and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're better if you pursue it. You're a more well-rounded person. You'll probably have more friends and be a better friend. So it's an option that's very wise to follow up on. That's
Yeah.
my take.
And I think for me, it's interesting because I would say like Jannelle, I have a high EQ, but I feel like in our society, kindness is looked at negatively.
Mm-hmm.
Like going out of your way to help people or listen to them, like for some reason has a negative rap to it. And so for me, I've always been like frustrated that I have such a high EQ, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Why
but-
frustrated?
I don't know, because I think in my mind it's always viewed as weakness
Okay.
to be kind to others,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
So if you
like
try
it's
to
not like strength, like you're bold, you're gonna tell people, and
Yeah.
yeah.
If you try to follow what other people are doing and you feel like, I can't follow them, I have to go back and take care of this,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Deborah bringing up a great point. Everyone has an EQ. Some people just, I guess more than others. That's a good point, Deborah.
Yeah.
And then she says it can be improved with training and practice. And one example of, one example of when it's not optional, I have a son that's very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
He's very emotional, very sensitive, but control, he's one of the younger boys. And so like yesterday, we just had a conversation about you have to learn, how to control yourself and how it impacts your marriage and your job. And, so in that sense, I can see how, like, especially as believers, if that's not something you have, then you got to figure out
Right.
how you're going to learn how to control your emotions.
Right.
Yes.
But then there's more to emotional EQ, and that's where I come in, where I struggle. And so there's connecting in a way of connecting when there's disagreement. And I shared during, I'm sorry, Ron, I keep, because
you're
of the
fine.
comments, I keep moving back and forth.
Okay.
I shared during the conversation, I think it was Wednesday, that for somebody that has EQ, high EQ, I struggle, I noticed, as I'm learning more about marriage, that when Len and I are disagreeing and we're in the heat of the moment,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more focused on my position and on the result, like my point, versus really listening to him. Like really listening to his perspective and how he feels about it. Like taking myself out of my point of view and really understanding, man, if I were you, I could see how this would bother you. It doesn't matter whether I agree that it should bother him. None of that. What matters is this is his experience. I've heard a lot, reality is perception. So my opinion about the situation doesn't matter. It's how he perceives it. And so I need to do better at listening. And I realized, whoa, you would think I would understand that. And I did share, this is so embarrassing to share, but that it's pride, to
exactly.
humble myself and say, I don't matter. Like my position doesn't matter in this conversation enough where I can push it aside and really, really seek understanding.
Right.
And so I looked up this article, and maybe you guys can share how you've grown with this. How to listen, really listen to someone you don't agree with.
Yeah.
And so it shares some points. And I thought, not even just in marriage, but even in the middle of a contentious season in our country, we see the division in our church.
Yeah.
It's easy to listen to people that chime your opinions.
Yeah, Tina on YouTube says, it is very difficult to be kind to someone who you feel is insulting and condescending. And that way, kindness is a strength.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can remember a time back in college, so a long time ago, but we had two of the roommates, myself and Jeffrey Tomer, and then Jeffrey Ford was on the other side of a theological discussion, and Jeffrey Ford would literally, while you're trying to make your point, you're citing biblical references, just waiting for you to stop talking so then he could jump in with his.
Yeah.
And it was It was almost comical to me, but it also showed me I was in essence doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't humming a song, but I was, not really earnestly paying attention to the points he was making.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for my chance to blast back.
Yeah.
And that's, like you say, pride.
Yeah.
I've learned, now that I'm 59 years old, I've learned that I've been wrong before. And I'll probably be wrong again.
Yeah.
And so why not listen to someone else's opinion and use that to add to what you have already in your information knowledge base, and then maybe your opinion may change a little bit.
Yeah.
But how do you do it when you have skin in the game? It's one thing to talk about political issues but let's say when it's been you and Dana, and the decision will impact you. It will either ask more of you or affect your comfort, or your kid, when it's decisions about the kids. How, as we learn about effective ways to really listen, it's not just sitting there and saying, okay, fine, I won't talk, I'll listen to you. What have you felt has helped you really hear her perspective in a way that it could change your mind?
That has happened. I'm trying to think how that came about. Some of it is just time and the continuance of love for someone, that you learn to self-sacrifice more. Some of it is learning, frankly, that she's right about some of these things. Like if she wants to say, hey, it's Saturday afternoon, I know Ohio State's playing, and I know you like to watch them just beat up all the other teams, but could you really take care of your grandson for a little while? I need to realize, I'd love to watch Ohio State play, but in the long run, is Justin Fields going to care that I was watching?
Yeah.
He's going to go to the NFL and become a multimillionaire, and I'm still going to be poor.
Yeah.
But, but my grandson, it'll matter to him if I spend time with him.
Yeah.
And sure, you could say, well, this one day, but every time you do that, you're chipping away at it. And the stronger the bond you make with your grandkids, with your wife, with other family members, the stronger that bond, the better you're going to be. At the end of my life, I don't want to be laying in bed somewhere thinking, I wish I'd have watched that football game.
I know, yes. Yeah. I like that practical example. And so I'll go to the article that I promised we would get to, how to really listen to someone you don't agree with. And I can post the link up or share it with those who are interested. It was written by Tanya Israel, and she's a retired psychologist. And it comes from her TED Talk, How to Be a Better Human. And so it starts off with, I think, my posture. When I sit with Len, in an example like what you use, where he's asking something of me, or we have to make a decision, my posture should be more than resolving the issue or let's see who's right. It should be more that he walks away feeling understood and feeling connected, regardless because if Len and I tell each other all the time, we're one team. So regardless what the decision is, we both have the best interest at heart. And so for him to feel understood and connected. And a lot of times you get to a decision as a couple or with your friends, you end the conversation. And even if you walk away feeling like, okay, I told you I was right, there's that chip away of I didn't feel heard.
Right.
Or you didn't really understand me. And so it shared a lot of the things we hear about how to be an active listener. One I have to work on, and you can share some that has helped you. Eye contact, of course. Sitting where your body's open to the other person.
Right.
Usually, I know this, but usually I'm not mindful of it, so that was good. The most important part of listening is not talking, and I know that's obvious. I know that's obvious, but I run, like you said, we'll respond while they're talking. Those I knew, but the one that really, really helped me, and that I want to start implementing. he talked about, we've heard this, and what is it? Reflecting back what they tell you.
Right.
So what you're trying to say is X, Y, Z, and you you tell them how you're interpreting what they say.
Right.
Not
And-
like exactly, but in your
Yeah.
own words. Go ahead.
The way you said that, like what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
I wouldn't use that phrase.
Oh, okay,
Because
okay.
it sounds like you're trying to say you're not doing it very
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Oh, yes.
But maybe what I'm hearing you say,
yeah.
Yeah.
am I understanding
I
you
agree with
correctly?
that.
Where you kind of put yourself as, I could be wrong, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
help me to understand you.
I've had conversations with individuals where I think I understand what they're saying, and then I ask them to either rephrase it or try to explain it in a different way, and then I realize I was completely wrong with what they were originally trying to say.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's helped in a lot of conversations before I'm like, hold up, like, wait, like,
Yeah.
is this what you're saying? Yeah.
So that one I knew, and it helps. I don't use it all the time, but
Yeah.
my favorite, and it's related to that, is asking open-ended questions.
Mhm.
Because even when you reflect it back and you're like, okay, this is what I hear you saying, and then you respond. But I feel like when you ask open-ended questions, like, and it's questions that are not answered with yes or no. So let's say he's frustrated with the kids and the mess when he gets home.
Mhm.
Not just telling him, oh, okay, so you found shoes all over the place and this bothers you. It's more, what is it about it that frustrates you? Or, you know, what is it what message are you getting from the kids when you continue,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing?
Mhm.
I put myself in somebody's shoes that does that, and it's like, wow, that really communicates.
Yeah.
I want to understand it. Like, not just that
Yes.
I hear it. Because the first one, repeating it back says, okay, you heard me. But are you trying to understand what I'm saying? And I'm sharing the example with Len, but imagine this in a conversation this weekend within, like, let's say 2 church members or friends that voted differently
Or relatives with Thanksgiving ideas
Hello.
and what they want to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go there. We
Yeah.
also have a comment from Lori who said, that is why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Excellent.
She said, I have said this many times, especially at work. If you listen to someone's differing opinion, you may learn where that person is coming from. Just because you disagree with someone, you are not hateful. And many times you have a different opinion. Like, we're not robots. Like,
Mhm.
we have feelings and
Yeah.
different opinions. Yeah.
One thing
Great.
I would suggest too is to be mindful of your emotions. Like you're feeling maybe anger rising up, so to speak, as a thermometer. Don't let it blow, but embrace it. Realize, okay, I'm angry about this. I need to keep breathing. I need to control that. And it's not necessarily bad. You're angry because you feel passionate about this.
Yeah.
But don't let it overcome you, and realize as well that the other person in the conversation probably has similar anger rising too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't result to calling names or something that'll trigger that,
Exactly.
but just be calm and controlled with the anger.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that I've struggled with, where like someone will say something and automatically like you just get angry or offended.
Mm-hmm.
But what I need to realize is they may not have experienced what I've experienced.
Right.
They may not have like knowledge or education based on whatever they're talking about. And so sometimes, but people are still welcome to their own opinions, but might not have in-depth knowledge of, you know, like certain things. But to kind of know, like, hey, like, they don't know your full story, they don't know your full perspective, which has helped me kind of pull back and be like, hold up, like, don't get offended, don't get angry, it's okay.
Danielle says, thanks to debate class, you have to listen in order to counter them.
Yes.
If you don't hear their points, you can't effectively persuade. The side effect, you might be persuaded. I like that, Danielle. I really like that. But in some situations, in some situations, like with Len, I do this. Like, I'll listen to persuade. I want my posture to be, no, I want to listen to understand.
Yeah.
And so be more neutral when I come into the situation. And someone asked on YouTube, what's up, Tina, Yvonne on YouTube?
Yeah.
And we see you people sitting on YouTube. Say hi. Tina says, is EQ the same as knowing how to work well with someone you don't get along with? I think, well, first, what do you think? Is EQ the same as,
I think
Yeah.
EQ is the tool set that you use to work with someone you don't get along with. So if you're able to do that, you probably have a high EQ.
Yeah, agree. Kelly Fuller said this, which maybe you guys can, plug into this. I find this harder to do with adult children than with my husband. I just expect them to agree with me, and it stumps me when they have their own opinions.
you have adult kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't even help there.
oh, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. But you do have to realize that they are their own people. And especially when they're out of the house where you can't just say, you're grounded, go to your room. But yeah, hopefully you've nurtured in them critical thinking skills. And if not, even now, these opportunities are a great chance to say, okay, let's think critically about this. I want to hear your thoughts. Why do you think this is a good thing? And knowing that I think it's a bad thing. And you listen to them and make them feel heard, like Jannelle has been saying.
Yeah.
Your bond will grow, and the respect they have for you will grow. The fact that because they are going to look at you and say, well, you just think of me as a little kid still. And so when you treat them as an adult, they will really appreciate that and respect you for that.
Yes, I love that, and I'm starting to have to learn that because my son's 17. But it's like an awkward in between.
Right.
Yeah, but it's good lessons from Ron. I would say, what's up to Steph? He said, hola on YouTube. And that's just like, it just feels awesome in my heart.
Hola, manita.
Hola. And Daniel, great point. He
Yeah.
says, but you're not neutral. So when I said, I don't want to come in with an agenda, I want to come in like on a neutral, he says, you're not neutral. Like, should we be pretending like we don't have an agenda? Or is it a literal physical posturing that presents as neutral, even though we're not really neutral? I think you're right, we're not neutral, and I do have an agenda. But in my head, if I tell myself, let me really listen, like I guess it's open mind,
Right.
versus no, you got to get my point in pushing my agenda. How would
Right.
you describe it?
Yes. Is your agenda, so to speak, flexible at all?
Yeah.
It's similar to if you're trying to win somebody to Christ, and if you go in all about sharing the gospel, and they kind of push back, and then it's unfruitful in that first meeting, so you throw in the towel and walk away. Well, that's an agenda that has not worked. But if you go in with the idea that you want to get to know the person, become friends with them, and it may take time, that's more the way I think we should look at it. That you're going in with the open relationship.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, it
and
does.
I even
It does.
think, like, if you're, like, let's just say, and maybe this is a very kind of generic example, but if I'm talking to a non-Christian, I know I'm not going to be swayed in my faith.
Right.
But it's okay to have those conversations, and you want to hear what they have to say, but you know that your opinion's not going to change on that because you have a firm grasp and foundation. But I think it's okay to mentally prepare yourself saying, I'm not going to be swayed in this, but I want to be open and hear what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a hilarious advice from Daniel, but I'm going to get to it. Lori says, that is why we have 2 ears and one mouth. I have said this many times, especially at work. If you listen to someone's differing opinion, You may learn what that person's, where they're coming from. Just because you disagree with someone, you're not hateful. Many times you have a different opinion. We are not robots. I love this, and I brought up Len because I realize I'm struggling there, but our encouragement is, let's do that this week as we talk about the elections, if you're going to talk about it with friends or within your church, with your neighbors, now especially, but moving forward, like Kelly said, about Thanksgiving and different change of plans, or about COVID. You know, I think we're so stuck on our ways that we lose connection and lose opportunity for relationships.
Well,
so
and you gain so much when you surround yourself with people who have differing opinions than you. Like, I'm blessed with my friend group that there's people on either side, but we can have a good, constructive conversation where it's not people yelling across the room. Like, we can have a deep discussion because we've established that friendship.
Yeah.
So it's something that's super sweet.
So Daniel is gonna wrap it up. He has advice. He has advice on adult kids. You know, like this. Brian would probably like this. Len would love this. He says, "You're allowed to have your opinion. I'm allowed to think you're crazy for having it."
Yes.
That was cool. That was cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.